The people live simple day-to-day lives. It's a farming community. Most of us were born there, and will probably all be buried there someday. Nobody really leaves, and no one ever moves here. No one would want to. There's nothing to do. Miles upon miles of open farmland, with the occasional red dot of a dairy barn across the fields. Nothing special, but we've got a little legend around here. Oh, sure, it could be a campfire story, something to keep us from getting bored on dark, windy nights. And it may sound silly to someone who doesn't live here, but for those of us who do live here, the story is all too real. You see, there's a lake on the north side of town, a vast, pure blue lake that stretches out in all directions. And when the water is still at night, it's so smooth that you'd swear you could reach out and touch your reflection. When the water is still, the moon beams off of it like glass, and when it's still, it's the most beautiful sight to see. But sometimes, the water isn't so still. There's been a story passed down a generation or two in town. The story of two sisters. It had been a hot day, and the two girls had been helping their father with farm chores. But in the late afternoon, because they had worked so hard, their father let the girls go swimming while he finished the chores. Excited to be free from the labors of the day, the girls took off toward the lake, barefoot and still dressed in their working clothes. And when they got to the lake, they dove in, work clothes and all. They laughed and splashed and dove in the cool, refreshing water. But in their enjoyment, they did not realize as the sun slowly slipped beneath the hills in the horizon. And before long, night had set in, and the dull blue sky overhead cast a faint glow over the rippling water of the lake. The eldest sister was becoming nervous because it was getting so late, and suggested that they go home, lest their father should start to worry about them. But the younger sister did not want to go home yet, because she knew that with the morning came more chores. So she swam away from her sister, drifting out into deeper water. Her little arms thrashed against the surface as her feet kicked, grinning to herself in defiance. And although the little girl, according to her sister, did not seem to have been tired at all, nor did she call out for help, her sister claims that the little girl simply slipped beneath the rippling water, and the sister waited with a smirk, thinking that the girl was trying to avoid having to go home. But when 4, 9, 13 seconds passed, and the little girl did not resurface, her sister realized something was wrong. The girl's father arrived at the lake nearly an hour later, finding his eldest daughter nearly at the point of fainting, diving down into the water again and again in search of her sister. But the girl was never found. Grief-stricken, the father and his only daughter moved away from the town and left their farm behind. So, although we may seem like a peaceful little town with ordinary lives, we have our secrets. All of us have seen, but few will tell, of the specters we see pass along the road. Some of us will tell of a little girl carrying on with her chores at a home which has been abandoned for decades. Others will swear to hear the laughter of a little girl running along the road, her bare feet skipping along the dirt road in the darkness of night. And some of us, all of us I dare say, have seen the ripples in the perfectly still lake, as though some struggle were going on beneath the surface. Perhaps the fish swimming around in their schools. Perhaps a branch which has become snagged in the rocks beneath the surface. Or the spirit of a little girl still thrashing under the cold water, trying desperately but always failing to reach the surface. Again, some may call it a campfire story, and some may say it's silly, but we who live here avoid that lake because all of us know the story, and all of us know what happens when the sun goes down.